Welcome into our shelter-in-place episode of Clipboard Conversations. We're joined by Hornets assistant coach Jay Triano. And Jay, obviously, different times for you. I mean, a basketball junkie, this has got to be the longest time that you've been away from a gym.
It really is. It's crazy. Went through. I took a picture the night before while we were in Miami. I was watching a game on my computer, a game on my iPad, and a game on TV. Who would know the next night you couldn't find a game anywhere other than something that isn't old? And that's what I've been doing, really. I've been, NBA TV's been great. And, we've got Second Spectrum, which allows us to go back and look at different games and some of the things that we've done in the past and what some teams have done in the past in playoffs and, trying to stay as up to date as we can with no basketball in our lives.
Zach Lowe had today kind of talking about how you guys as a staff have picked out playoff games or playoff series and gone back and watched them. How important is that just to see the different eras of basketball and specifically a playoff series, the adjustments and stuff like that, and to be able to learn from them?
It's great. It keeps us sharp. It keeps us learning about the games and different styles and different things. And, to me, there's two things that really stand out. Number one, high def has created basketball viewership to just be at a different level. I mean, I'm going back watching these. How did we even watch this before? But the other thing is that, you get to read strategies from different coaches over the course of a series, which is our aspiration. That's our goal, to get into a playoff series and then make adjustments on the fly and see what we can do differently. So we've been watching different games and then sharing. The game has changed so much too. I mean, now with the three-point shot, I mean, almost every shot, you look 10, 15 years ago, was a mid-range jump shot. And the three was something that kind of happened out of necessity, not as part of the main strategic part of your play. So the game's really changed.
I went back and watched a couple of playoff games from 1993. Charles Barkley and the Phoenix Suns against Shawn Kemp and the Seattle Supersonics. And, I mean, to your point about the three-point shot, now Dan Marley went off in that, but it was so rare. And I remember at the time, watching that. I was a huge Barkley and Suns fan at the time, watching that. And it's like, if you're not taking those shots, what are you doing?
Exactly. Yeah, no, watching the Lakers and Steve Blake, knocked out in a row in one of the games, and it was a surprise. And he was a bench guy who can come in and make like 3 or 4 in a row is part of your rotation and part of the main part of your offense, whether it's to spread the floor or whether it's to shoot the three. So, I mean, the game has evolved so much. So I watched a couple of the old and reading a book, 7 Seconds or Less, with the Phoenix Suns, and their pace of play was like off the charts. They wrote a book about it because it was so crazy. And when you look at the analytics and the stats, they would have been in the bottom third of the league as far as pace of play in today's game, which is, so it just shows how fast the game is and how much bigger and stronger and faster all these players are, which is great. It's part of the evidence.
And I know Earl Watson quite well. One of the things I remember when he was in Minnesota with the Phoenix Suns once, he was just talking after shoot around, and he started to talk about how Steve Nash really transformed the game of basketball by being as comfortable with the baseline as he was with the sideline, and he kind of shifted the paradigm. Do you see, those eras that you're talking about, that playoff series with the Lakers in Denver, that guys now can and utilize, even though the game has changed so much?
Yeah, we used to bug Steve about that quite a bit with the national team stuff, because it was almost like, for Canadians, it was almost like Gretzky playing behind the net. He used the net to his advantage, where defenders couldn't get to him, and they didn't know whether to try to go around one side, he'd come out the other side, or whether they would just stay and try to play the passing angles. And Steve really did that with the game of basketball as well, going that baseline drive where he kept his dribble alive. And, to this day, people call it the Nash dribble. You just keep going with it. You don't have to panic underneath there. Go out the other side, go back in again, and it commits to you. Then you've got to play, at the rim. So it has changed the game, and I think people now are a lot more patient when they get inside. And a lot of that is to shrink defenses, make them come in attention to you so that now you can kick for the three, or if they're in, the shot at the rim, which are the 2 shots that everybody's looking for.
It's a lot of fun to go back and look at those series. In that article that Zach, one of the guys that he brought up was Andre Miller and wanting Charlotte's backcourt guys to kind of see a huge Andre Miller fan. And we had him for about a year in Minnesota, and it was so fun to watch how he thinks the game. and he's not going to blow past you with his speed. He's not going to jump over you. But he thought the game at some of the guys kind of learned from the way. I mean, they call him the professor. Yeah. What can they learn from the professor?
I think, Andre's a perfect example of a guy that, he probably wasn't blessed with the most athletic ability in the gym, but understood where to be, how to get there, how to use his strength of his game to his advantage. I mean, guys were bigger, they were faster, they were stronger, they were taller, but he just had a real knack. The one thing we like to look at in Devontae in particular, because we think Devontae is such a great passer as far as alley-oops. And I don't know if there's a better one in the game than Andre Miller. He just had the ability to understand where his teammates were going, where they could get. So he could throw it to the corner of the backboard knowing that a guy was going to do a back, going to be the only guy who could get that. And, it's part of the evolution of Devontae with some of the guys that he plays with, because PJ and Miles in particular are two guys that can, make and they'll create highlights, not only baskets. So I think Andre is just a great guy for us to watch, because it's fun to watch guys that you can learn from that aren't blessed with a great amount of athletic ability, because you can't teach athletic ability all the time. I mean, you can teach how to manage it, but if you can, Andre had to run sets exactly. He had to run plays exactly the way they're supposed to do, so that he could get the ball to where he wanted to be. And I think that sometimes we get caught up in the highlights, and those guys are just blessed with athletic ability. These guys like Andre are guys that
George
understand.
Karl once said, "Hey, all these guys on Denver, they owe Andre some money, because he set them up in such a way that they ended up getting some big contracts out of playing alongside him."
I think that's the true value of a point guard. So, we talked about Nash as well, and he had the same effect in Phoenix. And whether it was seaming the ball so that the ball, got to the shooters where the seams were lined up, or whether it was getting there that tenth of a second quicker than anybody else, or it was right in the shooting, huge difference for shooters. And guys always shot the ball better when they played with point guards like Andre Miller and Steve Nash.
I feel like we could sit here and just talk hoops all day, but the people want to know, Jay, how else are you spending your time? What are you doing besides just going back?
Oh man, I'll tell you, I used to cut the grass once every 3 weeks, and now I cut it 3 times. Whatever excuse I can to have to be outside and be active, I'm walking around the house. Got 2 dogs, love going for walks with. Everybody's kind of in the same mode. In the neighborhood, so you see people, you keep your distance, but you say hi from at least a dog leash away, as dogs say hello, but they need to get out and about and spend time with the dogs, spend time watching different things on Netflix, watching games, trying to stay sharp. Used it also to stay in touch with a lot of people that, with our schedule and traveling, you forget about people. It's been a chance just to go back and check on people with text messages and see what some of our guys are and what they've been doing. So time to connect a little bit, kind of slow down the pace and get in better shape. You know what it's like traveling on the airplane with the food and being in hotel rooms all the time. It can take a toll on you physically. So just trying to catch up a little bit on all the right things to do.
We've seen Cody Zeller try to teach himself guitar. JB's watching Ugly Delicious. He's teaching himself all sorts of cooking in the kitchen. Dwayne Bacon, we saw a video of him practicing trick shots. Now, you're so good at trick shots in the gym. Are you walking around the house just banging it off the walls? And
not at all. No. The trick shots for the gym. But it's been fun watching those guys. Cody's, I think he's bored to death, and the guitar thing didn't go real well. But it's fun. It's fun seeing what everybody's trying to do to stay busy, and our guys are great. It's going to be fun watching some of these guys play 2K. What a great idea to have, just to keep the game of basketball relevant. And I thought Devontae's commentary on his play at funny, where he gave his own play-by-play, trying to mimic you a little bit, but it was great watching him. Talk a little smack while calling out a game.
How fun has it been? You talk about just connecting and kind of connecting with these guys in a different way, whether it's the coaches or the players, but forging a relationship in a different way rather than just sitting next to them, looking at a laptop but this is totally different way of establishing a relationship with guys.
Yeah, it is. It's away from the game of basketball. Every time we see them, we're either getting ready ready for a practice game or scouting or traveling, and it's all about the game, and it's all about what we're going to do in the next game. And it's the same with coaches. So, for us to be able to get involved in other things, and I've got a boat here. I go out on the boat a little bit. It's a big enough boat that you can be 6 feet apart. So if guys want to come out and hang out, we can stay in touch with and out a lot about each other outside the game too, which I think is going to be great when we all reunite. And I think something like this is going to change how we live our lives. I think everybody's going to be a lot more cognizant of physical spacing and cleanliness and making sure that we stay safe. And we got to look at this as a positive. There's not a lot we can do. We got to stay self-quarantine, right? Keep to ourselves a little bit, but then we got to break out of it, and it'll change how we live.
In an article I read recently, Cody Zeller talked about how, during the course of the season, you're with somebody so much day in and day out, hour to hour, that it's so nice to get rid of them, to get some space. And now when they did a Zoom call and he was on with Bill, and there's my best friend, I've missed this guy so much. Has it been good to get everybody back together and forging different relationships, but really knowing that, hey, this could establish things so that you're even closer to your point of it being a positive when you do get back together?
We're all going to have changed how we live our lives a little bit, but we're also going to value the time that we get to spend together a little bit more too. Even Cody, I think, we both said we missed the games. We missed the games and the prep and everything like that, hanging around the guys, whether it's in the locker room or the training room and just chatting and meetings. I mean, we laugh in those coaches' meetings and tell jokes as well as work together. So there's a big part of us that is missing right now, and I think we'll value that a whole lot more when we get back.
Well, Jay, I think I hear your grass growing, so we'll let you go. But we appreciate you taking some time and joining us, and can't wait till so much.
All right,
that's Hornets assistant coach Jay Triano joining us on this week's episode of Clipboard Conversations.